All right. Good morning, people. Um, if nobody joins this video today, it's perfectly fine. I'm going to try to save this video. Obviously, it'll be on Instagram for like 24 hours or so. But I'm gonna make sure that I upload this video to our show page, which is the Four Millennials Podcast Facebook page. Eventually, Duchala and I, my co-host and great friend Duchala, um, we're waiting for more of our followers to grow on the Forum Millennials Instagram page. So eventually we migrate videos like this over to that page, and we'll have more conversations or more videos like what I'm doing right now. But for now, I'm gonna do stuff on my Instagram profile. I know Duchala is gonna have some stuff that he's gonna do on his Instagram profile, and we're gonna build it from there and then merge everything into Foreign Millennials eventually. So like I said, I'm gonna have these random videos that I want to do, which appears to touch at least one person, which is dope. That's our goal. That's always been Duchala and I's goal, is to touch at least one person. Every episode we try to touch one person. And so, if you want to touch more people, do some randomness, some random shit like this. But the video for today I want to talk about, man, is mental health. Duchala and I we've touched on mental health countless times, both, interacting with people, but also quite a bit on the show. Mental health has always been something that has always been kind of, I hate to say it, kind of taboo, which is funny though, because mental health has been around since, the beginning of time. Emotional distress, mental distress has been around since the creation of life. It's a normal thing. It's like catching a cold. It's like getting sick. Mental health is something that's just there. So that's what I'm going to touch on a little bit today. Pretty much everything I'm going to discuss is just simply from my perspective, my experience, someone who has dealt with anxiety and depression, someone who still deals with aspects of it still to this day. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician in any way, not a psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist, none of that. That is not what I do. I'm simply giving you my experiences, what I've gone through, pretty much. But one of the things that I want to touch on with mental health is not necessarily just what I've gone through, but also, because I have that experience, that I can, in some way, shape, or form, educate other people to look out for signs of anxiety and depression. So if they know someone, they know what to do, kind of thing. At least, what I want people to do, or what I wanted people to do when I was going through it. Things of that nature. So I would say that, and I know it's kind of early, it's almost 10 o'clock. Most of y'all was probably out last night wilding out. So, if you see this video, cool, you'll see it when you wake up. Check the story feed, see that I got a video going, check it out. It'll be a great, continue to watch this video to help you out. So to get into it, mental health. It's so poorly misunderstood. It blows my mind. So poorly misunderstood. I'm not even gonna lie. Even before I started dealing with what I was dealing with, I honestly thought anxiety and depression was just something something that overly emotional and mentally weak, and people who are just sad all the time go through. You know what I mean? Who goes through anxiety and depression? Who goes through that? You know what I mean? You got a good job, you got a wonderful family, you know what I'm saying? The tangibles of life, got a little money in the bank, you got a dope ride, you got a beautiful girl, you got a beautiful dude. What do you have to sweat about? You know what I mean? Life is good. But after a while, once I started feeling, I guess, symptoms of anxiety and depression, not realizing it at that time, that exact moment once it started, not realizing that that's what it was. You know, I think what I hear from a lot of people, rational and logical people who've dealt with it, they kind of feel like they are exaggerating circumstances, but they're exaggerating circumstances that is uncontrollable. And usually when you're exaggerating something, it's almost intentional. But you know, when you're dealing with anxiety and depression, it's not intentional. It hits you. One of the I guess the analogies that I could use about anxiety and depression is especially depression, is it's like, you know, when you're dealing with life, right? There's moments in time where you're dealing with life, and then you can escape from life when life gets a little too difficult, or when you were strong enough to deal with something in life. You know, you take it on, you know, you do what you do at that moment in time, you take a step back, you rest, and you try it again, right? And you keep cracking at it until whatever you're facing ends up weeding itself out and ends up plateauing, and you end up conquering it, right? That's kind of how, you know, depression, or I'm sorry, that's kind of how life is. But the analogy I'm going to use when it comes to depression in life itself is when you're in the gym. So anybody who's in the gym who will understand this, or anybody period, right? Anything that's difficult, you'll get this. So the way I take depression, right, is I take it like when you go to the gym, right? You walk into the gym, you're feeling good, you know, especially if you've been working out before, right? So you're walking into the gym. The gym is life, right? You're walking into the gym, you're strong enough to take on life. You see the weights, right? So you see each weight is an obstacle. Each weight is a moment in time that you know, one weight could be work, right? It could be work. One weight could be personal relationships, right? One weight could be it could be money issues, right? So life and depression is like you walking into the gym. Now, when you walk into the gym, you're strong. You've got the endurance, you got the stamina, you pick up that weight, you start lifting the weight, right? Now, the thing about depression and anxiety when it comes to the gym is when you're in the gym and something gets difficult and you don't have the strength, you can put the weight back down, rest, and come back, right? Or if you had a workout and you're working out, your body's tired, you can leave the gym and go rest. How that correlates to depression, and the analogy that I'm getting at is imagine if that weight was stuck to you. That's what depression is. Depression is the weight is life. The weight is, you know, anything that causes you stress, anything that causes strain. You can't put the weight down. It's stuck to you, and you got to carry it every single day. That's what that is. That's what depression is. It's just something that sticks to you. And so that's something I want you guys to think about when you're when you think you might know someone is going through something. You may see them smile at one time. You may see them laugh at one time. They may seem okay. To you, you know, like everyone else, we all have an idea that depression and anxiety and stress of life is something that everybody deals with, but we take it as if it's stressful at that moment, and then when we step away from it, I'm no longer dealing with the stress until the next day. That's how normal people perceive stress and pain and anxiety and things of that nature. Someone who goes through anxiety and depression, it's like that for them every day. Every single day, it's like that for them. It's like that when they wake up. It's like that when they go to sleep. It's like that when they go out with friends, anything, or, you know, when they're with family, when they're at work. It is literally like that every day. And so, you know, I encourage you guys out there to, if you know someone, a family member or a friend, and you think they're going through something, the best thing that I would tell you to do is don't apply pressure. It's human nature. We're nurturers. We care for people. We have a tendency to try to step in and control and try to try to fix it. And that's okay, right? That shows you care. But when you meet somebody who's going through something, what you want to do is you want to try and just drop a seed, right? Just drop a little seed, sort of like a text message. And you say, hey, I'm here for you, Or say, hey, I'm just checking on you, cousin. Or say, hey, I'm checking on you, best friend. Just want to see how you're doing. Don't hint at anything that they're going through something. Just every now and then, maybe once a week, maybe once every couple of weeks, just send them a message and say, hey, just want to see how you're doing. You're probably going through a lot, but that's cool. Let me know if you want to talk, if you want to chat. Last time I saw you, I see you're going through something. You might be going through something or may not be, but I miss you, want to talk to you. Let me know how you're doing. That's it. Don't bombard. If you know somebody who's going through stress or pressure, anxiety, depression, anything of that nature, do not apply do not apply pressure or more pressure. Someone who's going through anxiety and depression, they perceive pressure and stress the same, right? Whether it's something from work or a personal relationship or someone who's trying to help, it's too much, right? They just need time to figure things out. So I encourage you guys, if you know somebody who's going through something, just drop a little seed and let them know that you're still there. It's the best thing you can do, okay? I know it's something that helped me, my family, my friends, Duchala, T-Dot, Terrence, them cats were there on a constant basis, but they never applied pressure, They, every now and then, I would get a text message, right? There was a few months where I was just gone. This is sometime late last year, when we weren't doing any episodes. That was because of me, because there was a few months, like 3 months, where I just was gone. Nobody talked to me. I wasn't online. I didn't do anything. Immediate family and friends were aware of what I was going through, and they left me alone. They didn't stray too far away. They hung around just enough to let me know that they were there. And that's what I encourage you guys to do, is to do the same thing, is to, just let your, whoever's going through what they're going through, just let them know, just drop a seed. I'm still here, just checking on you, and keep it moving. So that's what I encourage you guys to do. Another thing about anxiety and depression is that for those who are going through it, everything is way worse than what it is, right? From what I've read and what I understand and what I've seen, when someone's dealing with pressures of life, when someone's dealing with anxiety and depression, the one thing that you want to do is you have to understand that everything to them is way worse than what it is. If you're not dealing with anxiety and depression, but somebody is, imagine something that you've gone through, right? Imagine something that you've dealt with, right? Imagine that you got out of it, right? Whether it was a death in the family, whether it was stress at work, right? Most people, when they're stressed out, they have the ability in some way, shape, or form to detach, right? For people who go through anxiety and depression, they can't detach. They can't perceive the difference. To them, whatever's stressful in their life is amplified tenfold, right? And again, like I told you before, anxiety and depression is something that doesn't go away. So remember the analogy that I use. Depression is the stress of life, right? It's like going into the gym and picking up that weight. You keep lifting weights, right? You're strong enough to deal with the stress. Eventually, the stress gets to you. You can put the weight down and you can walk out the gym and come back the next day, stronger. Depression is that weight is still in your hands and you're carrying it with you when you leave the gym. It's in your car. It's with you in the shower. It's when you're eating. It's when you're having sex. When you're at church, that weight is always with you. That weight, that stress is always with you. So that's how people deal with anxiety and depression, is that weight is constantly there, and that weight is amplifying the pain tenfold. We all feel muscle pain after we work out. To someone who deals with depression, that muscle pain is tenfold in the muscle and it's all over the body. Their entire body is sore. is the analogy that I can use. And so, you know, again, having that understanding of anxiety and depression, if you've never dealt with it, but you know somebody who is, or you're assuming someone is, just keep that in mind, that that person, whatever's going on with them, is amplified. It is the worst possible thing. Another thing as well is when you're dealing with anxiety and depression, there's the way it's perceived to that person who's going through it is, another analogy that I can use is like, to us, right? Someone who's dealt with it, it's like being at the bottom. You're in a hole, like a really deep fucking hole. And below the hole is just earth. It's death, right? That's when you're at the bottom, when you're dealing with depression, below that is death, right? Death is never an option. But for some people, it has been their only way out, because the pain got so unbearable that they didn't know what to do. So my heart goes out to anybody, past, present, or future. My heart goes out to you. I understand the pain. I get it. But for those who end up watching this video, try not to think of that as an outcome. And simply because there is a way out. You know, no matter how deep you go, right? There's always a way out. Man, it's fucking hard. Don't get me wrong. To crawl your way. Trust me. Sorry, I just lost connection there. I apologize. But yeah, it's so you're in that hole. Okay, so you're in that hole, and you can dig your way out. Okay, it's a huge hole, but the cool thing, and the cool thing may not be the best terms to use, because it's not cool to be in depression, but the great thing about it is you can see where you're going. Right? It's kind of corny and cliche to say that, you know, started from the bottom, but we here. I know it sounds crazy and silly, but it's real. That's how depression works. Is when you start at the bottom, right? When you're in depression and you're dealing with that pain, you're starting at the bottom, and the great thing about anxiety and depression is you can see where you're going. So I know that, you know, being in the hole sucks, but the great thing about anxiety and depression, as hard, difficult, and painful as it is, you can see your way out. And if you put in the effort, whatever that may be, you know, if it's a healthy coping mechanism, and even with that, even with a healthy coping mechanism, a lot of people who deal with anxiety and depression, they do tend to self-medicate. To a lot of people who are manic depressive, who really are in a hole, even for them, it's hard for them to differentiate what a good coping mechanism is. Some people's coping mechanism is actually the gym. Some people go work out. That helps them get through the pain. But another coping mechanism, a bad coping mechanism for people who deal with anxiety and depression, is sometimes they use drugs as a coping mechanism, or they use alcohol as a coping mechanism, or sex is a coping mechanism. And people who are really deep into depression, they for that moment in time, the bad coping mechanism is perceived to be good to them, right? Whereas the positive coping mechanism is your support system, right? Your friends, your immediate family, when you're ready to discuss it with them. If you're uncomfortable and want an unbiased opinion, someone who can help you sift through what's going on with your emotions and your mind, a coping mechanism would be a therapist, right? They have a very unbiased viewpoint to help you get through what you're going through. They don't pick sides. It's a very logical and rational point of reference is getting a therapist, which is good, because the one thing that is not usually relevant in anxiety and depression is logic and rationale. When you're going through anxiety and depression, you tend to think more emotionally. things that just don't make sense. You try to make sense of things that don't make sense. And you end up doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result, which is what? Insanity. And so you end up repeating the cycle, and the hole gets deeper and deeper. But a coping mechanism, a great coping mechanism, is an unbiased opinion. It's one of the best things you can do for yourself when you're dealing with emotional distress, when you're dealing with mental health, is therapy. So one of the best coping mechanisms is the gym. Another one is your support system, friends and family. If you're not comfortable with them, therapist is another. I mean, shout out to the homie above. God has come through. He gives me the biggest lessons in order to get me out of the funk. The fifth is the last thing. All right, it's the last thing that I would say you would need to do is medication. Medication, it can help as long as it's not abused, as long as it's not the focus of getting better is by using medication. I've done it. I've been on sertraline, which I think was called Zoloft. I recently found out that the men in my family, there's been incidences over 30, 40 years of some form of mental illness of some sort when it comes to, I guess, chemical imbalance, which is really what a lot of anxiety and depression is, just chemical imbalance. Stress on the body causes serotonin levels and dopamine levels and things like that to amplify your emotional state. And so chemically, from what I found out, I have family members that just generationally have dealt with that and didn't know. You know, I found out like a couple months ago, no clue. So, you know, and so the medication will help balance that out. The medication will help balance out the chemical imbalance that you may have. So it's you know, again, medication is one of the last things I'd recommend. But if you're going to do medication, again, like I said, sertraline or Zoloft or other products, I would alongside of that, I would say the gym. I would say definitely get a therapist. Because it'll not only speed up the process of your healing process, but it's less time that you'll spend on the medication. Okay, you know, if you're solely on medication alone, I think that's where a lot of other problems, like you end up relying or become quote unquote addicted to the drugs. And you know, you have to go through the process of weaning yourself off the drugs. You know, so again, you know, when dealing with anxiety and depression, for those who do deal with it, or if you know somebody that's dealing with it, you know, have an understanding that, you know, relying just on medication alone is to me, just my opinion. Again, I'm not a doctor, okay, I'm not a therapist, nothing like that. To me, just doing drugs to get out of your emotional, mental, you know, anxiety, depressive state, relying on drugs alone is not a good idea. You know, you want to have multiple sources, positive, healthy sources to get you out of your poor emotional state. So again, you know, if you are going through it, if you're watching this video, excuse me, if you're watching this video and you're, you know, you're going through that emotional state, try not to rely on sex. Try not to rely on drugs, illegal drugs. Try not to rely on alcohol. Those coping mechanisms are temporary, all right? So they fix the moment in time. They feel good for that moment in time. And as the studies have shown, drugs, sex, believe it or not, sex, the way it affects the body, it has the same addiction rate of drugs, right? And so like any drug, you know, if you can jump online and you can see, or you can pull up the information online, people who get high, who are addicted to drugs, what they're addicted to is they're trying to get high to chase the very first high. Nothing feels as good as the very first high that they had. So that's how you get addicted, is that you're constantly taking drugs to chase the high that you first had. And the same thing with sex. You know, when you've ever had the best sex you've ever had, whether it was the first time or the third or fourth time you did it, we all remember that one time where we had the best sex of our life. And so when you're going through an emotional state like anxiety and depression and sex becomes the addiction, you just keep having sex to try and chase the first time you've ever had sex. So, you know, that's not a healthy, sex is healthy for you, don't get me wrong. Let me tell you something, sex is healthy for you. I'm just saying. But if it becomes an addiction, that's where it becomes unhealthy for you, and it stirs up a whole nother row of problems. So again, unhealthy addiction, from my experience, sex, drugs, alcohol, stay away from it. The only thing that I would say can potentially be very healthy if when it does become legal, and it will become legal, is cannabis. It has been used for thousands of years to treat all kinds of illnesses. There isn't a whole lot of scientific, I'm sorry, let me take that back. There isn't a lot of FDA approved science behind cannabis and marijuana. There will be eventually, and how it supports mental health when used moderately, discretionary, on a discretional basis. But that's another topic. So again, you've got your negative coping mechanisms, and then you have your positive. So the positive would be your physical health, the gym, support system, family, friends, therapy, huge. That's probably the biggest one. And then the last one, which if used alongside of everything else that I listed, is medication, right? Legalized medication from your physician. So let that be a focus. So ultimately, when dealing with anxiety and depression, whether you're going through it or if you know somebody who's going through it, having an understanding of what you're going through or having an understanding of what they're going through is extremely important. I got to give a shout out to Charlemagne the God. I'm going to get his book later today and read and see his experience, see his perspective on his book Shook Ones. He talks a lot about mental health. He talks a lot about it on Breakfast Club. I know a lot of people give him shit for how he addresses issues, especially with his guests on the show. But he's a pretty real brother, and he's addressed mental health on several occasions, and it's becoming more of a topic now, especially in Black culture. It's especially with Black men. Duchala and I, my co-host, we've always touched on it, that in our culture, Black men don't typically address their mental issues. Obviously, because life is already difficult for a brother, especially Black folks in general. So having to confess our fears, having to confess our issues, we perceive it as that is a weakness that's being that could potentially be exploited. It's a fear that Black men have. I've had that fear. I will say that once you address it and the world sees that you are a vulnerable individual, it's not a weakness. That is a horrible misconception. I just want to put that out there. For all my brothers out there, even my sisters, anybody really, but especially Black folks, that's bullshit. I promise you it's bullshit. If you're going through something and you think that you're less than by not addressing it, by bottling it up and tucking it away and be like, man, fuck that shit. I'm strong with it. I don't need to address my issues. I'm not going to let this world defeat me. I'm going to rise up, and that's all bullshit. It's just another way to tuck everything away in a closet. It's just another way to not deal with our problems. We as Black folks, we have a tendency to absolutely was that anonymous? Hey man, what's up, brother? We need a rap, by the way. Miss you, man. That boy anonymous. Shout out, man. Hey, hot good. Hey, we need to talk, man. You're absolutely right. There's so much strength to being honest with self. You're absolutely right. And it's more than being honest with yourself. It's more than it's being honest with the people around you. That's where the strength lies, right? Because what happens is we end up being selfish. We end up bottling everything up and being strong on our own, right? But when we confess our fears, when we confess and be vulnerable, other people will feel the need to do it as well, right? There's more people in pain in this world than people who are not. Keep that in mind. There's more people in pain than the more people who are not. So if you're able to put it out there, if you're able to put your shit out there, not with drawing attention to yourself and say, look at me, I'm in pain, not like that. But if you're putting it out there for the betterment of others, others will find a reason to put it out there for the betterment of others as well. And you will continue to build a strong foundation. That's something that we as brothers and sisters, we don't do. You know what I mean? Because we don't want other people to deem us to be weak. And it's funny because we as black folks, we're very emotional people. You know what I mean? Like, we're very emotional. It blows my mind because I need to get in on the podcast. We can talk, man. Let's see what you want to talk about. Send me a DM. Jay just send me a DM. Let me know what you got on the mind. I'll get with Duchala, my co-host, the Four Millennials podcast. Just send me a message, man. Later on, you have to do right now, and let's wrap. Let's see what you want to talk about. We'll definitely do that. But yeah, back to what I was saying is that, you know, we as black folks, we don't want to put ourselves out there because we're worried that it's going to be deemed weak. It's going to be deemed, especially for men, black men, we don't want to seem vulnerable, or we don't want to seem emotional. Yet we make the most emotional music. Ain't that some shit? Black people are the most artistic people on earth, the most expressive people on earth, right? We're the coolest. You know, we're not the dullest at all. We're definitely the most eccentric. We're definitely the most artistic, expressive. We're the most emotional. So much so that we nitpick between each other and our mental states, right? You know, you acting light skin, you acting emotional, you acting light skin. Tighten up. That's crazy, right? Yet we are the originals. Facts. Yet we'll acknowledge when we address our issues, right? We'll acknowledge our issues in music, right? We'll say, you know, man, I love that R&B song. The sensuality. I was with my girl and the music was dope. You know, we'll take pride in our emotional expressive state in music in a more almost fictitious manner than if it's reality like this, right? So I think once we break that barrier within culture itself, not just black culture, but culture in general, but specifically black culture, if we can break that mold of viewing mental health and dealing with our issues as something so taboo, that's when we'll elevate. That's when we'll get to the next step. When we can sit in a circle, break bread, and have that conversation about what we're going through. That's when things will get better. If not, we're going to keep doing the same bullshit over and over and over again. But anyway, that's the tangent on that. Overall, mental health is a very, very, very serious topic. But at the same time, it's something that we should take as serious as a common cold. It's something we should take as serious as a broken leg. Whatever, a sore throat, a virus, any illness, anything, allergies. There's a whole, I think we'll start getting commercials for allergy season, in February, end of February? You're going to start to see a whole marketing plan on every channel you can think of in preparation for April. You know, it's going to be between the end of February through May. You're going to see a whole campaign on allergy meds and allergy awareness and all of this. Right? But we don't have that for mental health. You know, there is no season for mental health. Mental health is mental health. It's every day, all day, every season, every month, every year. It's just there. You know what I mean? So it should be a focal point. But it's not. It's not, and it should be. But that's okay, though, because I promise you guys, Duchala and I will continue to make sure we have this conversation. But that's really all I wanted to talk about with you guys today. I appreciate you guys viewing this video. Feel free to drop me a line, drop Duchala and I a line. As you see, I'm Pablo the Canadian. Duchala is at D-U-C-H-A-L-L-A at Duchala. You can also hit us up on the Foreign Millennials podcast page as well. Foreign Millennials, that's 4IN Millennials. You can find us on Instagram, you can find us on Twitter, you can find us on Facebook. We also have the YouTube page that we're still working on. We also have the website that we're working on. But I'm going to try to upload this video to the Facebook page as well as the YouTube page. And then, like I said, it should be on here for like 24, 48 hours, I think. But yeah, no, absolutely. You guys keep checking out the videos that we have. Every time I have a random thought like this, I'm going to try to reach back out to you guys and just, you know, do a live video cast like this, let you know what's on my mind. And like I said, my goal is to touch one person. So if I touch one person, which it appears that I have, that's my goal. I'm successful in my eyes. So yeah, if you guys ever want to talk to me about anything, if you have any concerns about mental health, again, I'm not a doctor, not a physician, not a psychologist, a therapist, nothing like that. I'm just a person who's dealt with it, and I can relate to someone else to hopefully help them ease their pain. If you would like me to discuss something with someone, please, I'm all ears. I'm an open book. Please come at me. I'll be happy to do it. Send me a message. Send either me or Duchala a message. Send us an email, foreignmillennials@gmail.com. Please do that. All right? Please do that. Other than that, it's been a pleasure. Love you guys. Appreciate you. I'm out. Peace.